In this video, my goal is to get our raised bed set up and to get started on our fencing. If you're just joining us for the first time, last fall we cleared this area and we've been working on getting the brush out of here, getting it leveled out, and we're starting to get this set up for our garden this year. We've got a whole playlist. I'll put a link in the description if you want to get caught up on that. I already got started on this a little bit today by getting the brush that was in this section, the bulk of it chipped up with the wood chipper. I had to pick it up by hand and move it. If I'm gonna pick it up by hand once and move it, I'd rather move it right into the wood chipper rather than moving on to another pile to have to pick it back up again later. I'm gonna see if I can come down this way with the tractor and grab those couple of stumps out of there. Well, I was worried it was gonna be too wet for me to be able to back out of there, and I was right. My best bet is gonna be to just try and turn and go out the garden. It's still wet, but it's not that bad. I think I can make it out. I'm definitely stuck. I had to call for help. It's important to know when it's time to stop and not go any further, because you're just gonna make it worse. Stop. Go. There we go. Stop. I think it's gonna be too wet to tackle that line of fencing I was gonna try to after that encounter with the mud. That area was just way softer than I expected it to be. We picked up this auger. I went with the new one from Tractor Supply. At least in our area, looking on Facebook or Craigslist or wherever, the used ones are not much cheaper than a new one, and they're completely worn out. It'll be the first time I'm using it. I've never actually used a 3-point auger. I've used a hydraulic auger on a skid steer, which the biggest disadvantage with this is you can't reverse it the way you can with that if you get stuck. It's a lot cheaper than a hydraulic auger. I wanted to give this a try and see how well it would work. That's just at idle, and it's starting to pull it down in there. I'm just gonna run it at idle. My experience with augers, the slower the better. Obviously, if it's bogging down and lugging down on the tractor, we'll open up the throttle a little bit, but I'm just gonna go down slowly a little bit. I'm just letting the 3-point down a little bit here and there. We'll pull up and just let it kind of clean the crumbs out. We look like we're nice and level going this way. We are leaning a little bit that way. Boy, it sure would be nice to have a hydraulic side link for this thing. I'm gonna try and shorten this one. I like to do the corners first, then you know exactly where you're gonna be, and then you can lay out your string line and do the rest of them. I know I can't get to that back corner post, but I'm gonna try and get the other 3 corners in. I was worried it was leaning a little bit that way at the top, but it's pulling down nice. I do need to pull ahead just a little bit. Seems pretty soft here. Just pulling right down. All right. That's as deep as we need it. It's the next morning and we're back out here. We got those 3 holes augered yesterday. I started laying out the rest of the posts on this front line. I like to use these step-in electric fence posts. They're nice and easy to just set up. I just put them directly on the outside of the 2 holes that I augered yesterday, right in the center. And then I stretch the string line across, and then I put flags right along that string line where the other posts are gonna go. So now I can go ahead and pull that string line out so it's not in the way when we're trying to auger. We'll get these next 4 dug, and then we'll be on to setting post. There it goes. For these line posts, I really only want to be 2 foot or 2.5 foot deep. So Probably plenty by the time I get the crumbs out. This one up here on the very top corner, which is the highest point of where we're working, is probably at least halfway filled with groundwater. Pouring dry concrete mix in there and mixing it with the water that's in there is probably going to be our best bet. We're not going to get all the groundwater out of it, and more is going to seep in as it fills, so we want the concrete to be relatively dry that's going in there. The one down in the very bottom corner, which is the lowest, probably the lowest fence post in this whole line, completely dry. This one down right behind me, which is right by where we got stuck yesterday, is almost all the way to the brim with groundwater. We're gonna have to get some of that water out of there. The only pump I have is this 2-inch trash pump. I'm gonna see if I can use this to get the water pumped down to where we've only got 6 inches or so. Want this leading edge to be wrapped around this way so that your line is straight. You're not pulling from the back corner and the front corner. And then we'll go around the front corner on this side as well. This hole has also already got water in it, and it's been at least 4 or 5 hours since we drilled these. We're putting a gate right here. This post is going to hold the gate. So now we're going to go to set level and lock them in. Twist just a little bit. That's perfect right there. There we go. And this one's got water in the hole too, so we're going to do the same method of pouring concrete into the hole and mixing it in the hole. This one was just a little bit low on the amount of water because, well, it's only sat here for 4 hours or so. So I'm just gonna add just a couple more spoonfuls just to make sure that I get this all mixed in nice. I'm gonna take a shovel and try and go around and fill in any of the holes that I can find that have standing water in them still. It's been about a week since the rain, and most of the area is relatively dry. I've made ruts with the tractor or even just some footprints when it was really wet where there's just still a puddle there. So I'm going to try and just fill those in and displace the water and get it to run downhill. These last few posts, they're just line posts. So I'm not going to set these in concrete. It's possible that we might make some changes to this fence in the future. So that's one reason why not to. And two, it's a little bit cheaper this way. I pack them in with washed stone to get them in nice and tight. If you just backfill with dirt, it's going to settle and then they'll loosen up. And I'll wiggle the post a little bit to kind of get that rock to work its way in there. Pack it down in there. I fill the top 8 to 10 inches with good clay and pack it in there really tight. And I like to do just a few inches. This bar's got this tamp on the back of it. Take and tamp that in all the way around to make sure we're getting as compacted as we can, and just build it up in lifts that way. Pack it in there really tight and mound it up so that as it settles it still stays mounded and it keeps any water from entering from rainwater. Just up in the woods looking for some fence posts to harvest. Oh, there's some. I'm not sure the backstory on this structure. It was basically in the exact same state it is now when we bought the property. I don't know what caused it to collapse or anything like that, but there are plenty of good 4x4 posts that are still in good shape, so I figured we might as well use them. Fortunately on these, there's no groundwater in them. This technique of setting them with washed stone, I did this on the last fence I built. And I discussed it with my brother, and he did it on a fence he built, and he said that all the posts just ended up wobbling out. I didn't have that experience. We lived there for 3 years or so after I built that fence, and they were all still nice and sturdy the day we moved out. It's Wednesday afternoon. We've had some good drying days this week. I've got two goals for tonight. One, I want to put this last corner post in, or at least get the hole augered, because this is the last remaining wood post that I can't reach from the driveway. All the rest of the posts along this run and this run are going to be T-posts, which are easier to put in with the tractor, but I can put them in by hand if necessary. So that alleviates our dependency on it being too wet to get the fence finished. And then the other thing is I'm gonna see, we'll put the blade on the tractor and just try and skim over this stuff and knock the ruts out and get it as smooth as possible. It is still a little bit wet, but it's definitely dried down a lot, and I think I can get most of that done. We made it. Sounds like rock. As wet as this is, I'm sure we're gonna have a hole full of water again. It's actually drier underneath. Well, maybe I'm wrong. The tractor's working for it. That looks good. Hopefully we can get out of here, and then we'll go put the blade on, work on all the blade work, and then we'll come back here at the end of the night and get the post set. Here goes nothing. Oh yeah, no problem. All right, let's see how much of a mess we can make, or maybe how much we can get done. Well, this isn't going to be the prettiest grading work. As you may have picked up on my comments before we started, I wasn't super optimistic as to how much I was going to be able to get done, and it's certainly not perfect, but I got a whole lot more done than I expected to. Based on the weather forecast, tomorrow is supposed to be a sunny day, and the rain is supposed to come in until after dark, so if that holds out, I will try and get back out here tomorrow. This is workable. I mean, this isn't perfect, but this, I could leave it at this and be happy with it. So I'm gonna go get this last fence post installed. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you back here next time. It's been about an hour since I finished that fence post, and I've already got too much water in it. I should have done it right away, but I guess we'll have to pump that out. And the water's to the top of the hole, which means it's gonna be running under my feet in a minute. There it goes. I started this camera before I started pumping, and it's been 12 minutes. You can actually see water just bubbling. Well, that's the most interesting concrete job I've ever done, but I think it'll work. I guess we'll find out.